Good morning, everybody. My name is Amanda Hallmark. I am the trainer for the Your DEQ Online project for DEQ, and we are so excited to be here this morning to share with you a little bit about our platform and how to report your DMRs coming up here in a couple of months. Joining me today are some of my colleagues, Martina Fry and Melissa Kays. They are both experts in both water quality and Your DEQ Online, so they'll be able to help us out today. And I will be passing it off to Martina here in just a few minutes for a presentation. But first, I just want to go over a couple of things. One thing is you may have noticed that we are recording this session. So just a heads up that it's recording. We'll be posting it to our website here when we are done. So know that you don't have to memorize what we're saying for you today. You'll be able to go back and reference this video later or send it to colleagues that you know may need some help as well. So this will be a resource that we'll be posting to our website. Also, we do have chat disabled today, but we do ask that you type some questions into the Q&A as they come through our presentation. We will not be pausing necessarily for questions as we go through, but if you have a question, you can use that Q&A little button at the bottom of your screen in Zoom. Type in your question, and then Melissa and I will be working hard to get some of those answered, or we may be able to call some of them out as we go. Anything we don't get to during our presentation, we will have some time at the end to answer them. So we'll be going through what you type in. We'll also probably have an opportunity to unmute should we have enough time to do that. And then finally, any questions that we do not get to today, we will send out the answers to them in email form. So one way or another, we will get everything that you have that pops in your mind today back out to you. We definitely want to be here to support you as you start working through DMRs. And with that, I am going to pass it over to Martina.
Great. Thanks for the introduction, Amanda. I appreciate that. Today, we will be talking about discharge monitoring reports, and I believe this audience is general permit holders or general permit registrants, and so this will be your first time reporting DMRs electronically. So we have a new system and also a new process for you. So just to go through what we'll talk about today, we'll discuss your DEQ Online in general, and then we'll go into detail about how to find DMRs in your DEQ Online, what they look like, and how to complete them. And then I'll go over some online guidance that we have available, and then step through additional training and drop-in sessions and things that we will have between now and the first general permit DMR deadline of October 15th. And then at the end, if we have time, we will take your questions. So first, what is your DEQ Online? It's our new system. It's not new per se, but new for wastewater permits to access various permitting services. You can submit applications. This is where you would submit permit required reports, including DMRs. And then you can also pay invoices by credit card or check through the system. That's something that our customers have been wanting for a long time. And it also allows you to directly access public records. So we're not going to cover anything about account registration. This is focused on DMR, but I will give a plug to our Your DEQ Online website. If you just Google Your DEQ Online, it will bring you to our main page where we have instructions for account registration, very detailed, including videos and things. And then also a section on how to use your DEQ Online with user guides and various other program resources. So definitely take a look at what's there. If you haven't already registered your account, that would be your first step to get in there, get your account, and start looking around. So the first thing that we'll talk about is finding DMRs. And so once you're registered and in the system and you log in, you will be taken to your dashboard page. And I'm showing this one here just as an example, but in the upper left-hand corner are two arrows here, and that will open the main menu. So I found that the best way to navigate your DEQ Online is through the main menu. You can access all different kinds of things from there, start new submittals and so on. So I will demonstrate that shortly. But just so you know, this little menu button here is your friend, and you can get to it from pretty much any page in your DEQ Online. So something to keep in mind when you're looking for DMRs is that they're found in different places depending on the status of the DMR. So it's kind of jargony, but what I mean is that if you haven't started a DMR yet, you haven't opened it, and you're just looking for something that's new to fill out, you would look in the section called Upcoming Obligations. If it's something that you have started already and you've saved it, but you haven't submitted it yet, it would be in Pending Submittals. And if you've already submitted the DMR and you considered it complete, but you want to go back and look at it or maybe change it, you would find those in Submitted Submittals. So that's just an overview. Let's take a look in your DEQ Online. This is in our training environment. And so I'm already logged in and at my dashboard. And let's click on the main menu to show what that looks like. Over here we are on the dashboard. And this button here will open up the main menu. So we have upcoming obligations, pending submittals, and submitted submittals. So I imagine that when you're first logging in here and you want to start your first DMR that's due in October, you would go to upcoming obligations. So let's take a look at that. And then to give yourself more room, you can just close this again. So here are upcoming obligations, and the default search for this page is to give you the thing that's due soonest at the top of the screen. So it's from due date, oldest to newest. So if you have any DMRs that are past due, those will be on the top of the page, like I do here. And then anything that's farther in the future is going to be down on the bottom of the page. So that's handy if you're not delinquent and you're just looking for what's due next. There are several options for searching though. You can search by reporting period. So if you wanted to put in a date range, you could click on this little calendar button next to reporting period and specify, say you wanted to look at June DMRs. Putting in some dates here. And I have two here, one for a 100J permit and one for a 1700A permit. The reporting period is here, 6/1 to 6/30. That's important to make sure that you're pulling up the correct month and the correct year. And then say you wanted to search by due date, and this is going to be probably your most common search. I recommend searching for DMRs due in the next 30 days because that'll bring up what you have coming up, to submit next month. Another thing that you might want to do is to look at DMRs due in the last 30 days to make sure there's nothing you've missed. So here's a DMR that was due 5 days ago and it's still in new status. So that means I hadn't even opened it yet. So if you just want to make sure that there's nothing outstanding that you haven't started yet, you can do due date last 30 days. I'll take a break here to check my notes. Okay, so next I want to show you pending submittals, just so that you can see what that looks like. Pending submittals are things that are kind of in limbo. You started them, but you haven't submitted them, so they're in open status or revision status. And this will be a pretty short list of things that are, not like the big list of things that aren't even started yet. So the search criteria are a little more limited, but you should be able to see what you're still working on that still need to submit in pending submittals. All right, and then let's go to submitted submittals. This is where you find things that are complete. And then again, you can, it defaults to what's submitted in the last 30 days. But say you needed to go back and look at something that you submitted for June, you could use that same search feature, either search by a date range or search by a relative date of the last 3 months last year. All right. So let's switch back to presentation. So let's talk about the anatomy of a DMR. So now that we've found the records in there, we'll want to take a look at one of them. But just to give you an overview, the DMRs are organized by tabs at the top, along the top of the screen. So there's basic information, and then where you put your data in, there'll either be a daily data format or a summary data format, not both. And I can demonstrate both of those different types. There's an attachment tab for you to add attachments if you want to, a review tab, and a submission tab. And throughout these screens, any fields that are required are outlined in red and have a little exclamation point with required. So you'll know exactly what you need to fill out and what you might be able to skip. And then those tabs will show, if something's incomplete, it will show an exclamation point on the tab so that you know that you need to go back to that to complete it before you can submit. So I did mention that there are two types of DMRs. The first one is daily data, and this is where you report individual sample results. There's a calendar that you can choose your sample dates, and so you're basically putting in a sample result for a particular sample date, and then, for all the substances that you're required to report. So if you have multiple sample dates, you can select multiple dates on the calendar, and it creates rows and columns for you to put in each sample result. And then there is an optional copy paste feature that you can use if you have a lot of data to put in, and I'll demonstrate that as well. The permit types listed below in orange are the ones that have daily data reporting. The other type of DMR is a summary data DMR. So this is where you report summary statistics for the whole reporting period. So that would be like monthly average or monthly maximum and things like that. And this is laid out differently. Where you click each row to enter the data. There is also a copy paste feature that I'll demonstrate that makes it a little easier. And then with summary data, because you're reporting summary statistics that you've calculated, DEQ requires that you submit your daily data as a spreadsheet. So that's a required attachment for summary data. And again, the permit types that have summary data forms are listed below in orange. All right, so let's take a look at one of these DMR forms. So I'm going to go to upcoming obligations, and here there was a little shortcut here, but upcoming obligations. And then I'm going to search for DMRs due in the next 30 days. And we will take a look at a daily DMR for the 1700A permit, and that will be our first example. So let's get oriented here. As I mentioned, there are tabs along the top, just as I mentioned, and then you can see where there's required information that we haven't filled in on various tabs, and they're highlighted here. So to take you through this example, I'm just actually going to fill it out with as if we had data to submit. So on the basic information page, the signatory name and the signatory phone number are required. This is not the name of the person who's preparing the DMR necessarily. It's the person who's authorized to sign the DMR. So that would be the responsible official. And then there's an option here to put in comments if you want to that, qualify any of the information that's included in the report. Moving over to the daily data tab, this is where most of the data entry occurs. So let's take a minute to get oriented. We have tabs along the side, and those are for different groups of monitoring. And I'll show you what we mean there. We've got the name of the facility and the address of the facility. Again, the DMR monitoring group here is listed as well. Note that this 002 is sort of identifying the sample location or the outfall. So here we just have one outfall with two groups of monitoring, but if you have multiple places where you take samples, you will have multiple outfalls listed. And I should note that if you open up your DMRs, which are available as of this week in your DEQ Online for you to look at, and you see that you don't have enough sample locations, say we just gave you one and you need two, please reach out to our Your DEQ Online help desk and let us know that we need to add those. We did the best we could looking at your DMR submittals on paper, but we may have missed something. So anyway, let's take a look at these two groups. The first one, A, is for engine washing, other kinds of washing as well. And then the group of monitoring for B is all other activities. And so on the paper DMR form for 1700A permits, there was one side for the engine washing, and then the other side of the DMR was for the other activities. So we've kind of mimicked that format here. Here's the reporting period start and end dates, so you can make sure that if you're filling it out for August, that's what you mean to do. And then these are notes that describe either how to enter data or any other sort of caveats that were included in the permit itself that might help you fill out this information. So since we're in the daily data form, we have a calendar here, and this is where you would select your sample dates. You can see that part of this August calendar is grayed out. You cannot choose to enter sample data for a future date. It has to be either today or a day in the past. It also does not let you choose a date outside of the reporting period. So you'll just see what's available between, today and the start of the monitoring period. So as an example, let's choose August 13th as our sample date. And once we do that, the calendar shrinks and you see a column that has been created that has the sample date that we chose. If you need to select a second sample date, you can open up this calendar again. It just grows and shrinks, and choose a second date. So you also took samples on the 14th. You shrink this back down, and now you have two columns for entering data, and you can add sample results for copper on 8/13 and 8/14. If you accidentally submitted or selected the wrong date, you can click on the trash can to delete that row. It will ask you if you're sure. And when you do, you're back to just one row. So that's how you set up a data entry form to match the data that you have. And at this point, you'll want to go to your lab results and start entering laboratory data. So let's have some sample data here. We will just enter copper here, 0.05. We'll enter lead, 0.01. As soon as we enter the data in a format that it accepts, numeric format, then the red box turns white and you know that you've satisfied the requirements there. If we put in, for example, oil and grease, it has a limit of 15 milligrams per liter. If we put in a value that is higher than that limit, it will alert you to double check that you meant to put in 20 and not 2, for example. And so it will highlight that for you, but it doesn't prevent you from submitting that information. It just wants to make sure that you didn't miss a decimal place or something. Okay, and then another thing that might come up is that you might have non-detect. So your report might say ND and then give the detection limit. So the way that you would enter that is you would change the equal sign to a less than sign and then put in your detection limit. So in this case, the detection limit for zinc was 0.01 milligrams per liter, and we put less than, and that indicates that it's a non-detect at this level. And then finally, pH, you would put in your sample result for pH, which I have as 7.2. And so after I put in that last number, let's just show the difference. There's a red exclamation point here showing that I still have a required field. And then once I put it in, then that red exclamation point goes away and it shows that I can move forward with the rest of the data entry. This form is complete. All right. So let's look at this 002B. This is all other activities. What if you didn't do any other activities and you didn't need to monitor for that? You don't need to fill anything in on this form because you didn't sample. There is a way to indicate that, and it's this no discharge button over here. No discharge actually really means no data, like you don't have data for it. There may have been discharges that you didn't need to sample. If you click this box, it will give you several options to choose for reasons. These are based on no data indicator codes that EPA has developed. And so you should use the codes that are appropriate for the situation. In this case, if we didn't perform any of the other activities covered by this permit, we can choose conditional monitoring not required this period. and that would be appropriate. And you can see that once we did, the rest of the form is grayed out and no data entry is required. And so that takes care of the data entry for this group of monitoring. There is one more thing I'd like to show you, and I'm going to undo the no discharge button to do that. I want to show you the copy paste option for daily data entry. So you'll find that here in the calendar section. The first thing you'll want to do is, again, select your sample dates so that you can have places to put your data. And then the next thing is open up the calendar again and choose copy paste. And this is where it offers you a spreadsheet that you can download. So I'm going to click on this, and it gives me a spreadsheet that you can open up. And the spreadsheet matches the list of substances that were on the previous form. And this is the date that we selected. So basically, this is giving you a spreadsheet option to fill in instead of tabbing through the other form. Doesn't work. It doesn't offer very many benefits for when you just have 3 substances, but for some general permits, they have 25 substances. So it may be easier for them to use the spreadsheet format to enter data. So let's just put in our numbers here. Got 10. The pH was 7.2. And total suspended solids was 12. So to use the copy paste feature, we fill in our data associated with the substance, being cognizant of the notes here, effluent gross and milligrams per liter or standard units, whatever the requested units are. And then to copy and paste the information, we just want to highlight the data that we entered. So we ignore the first row and we ignore the first column, and we just copy this section here. I'm going to do that. Go back. And once we have that copied, we go to the copy paste here screen, paste that in. We can see that it's come in correctly as a table format. And then we click import data, click OK. And it's taken that information, oil and grease, pH, and total suspended solids, and it's pasted them in the correct locations. So again, if you have a long list of substances or many sample dates, it may be easier to work in a spreadsheet to get it all organized. The one limitation to this is that if you have some of those non-detects, you cannot paste in a change to the operator. You would need to go in and manually do that afterward. And I will say that, again, if you have a lot of parameters, it's important to check that the data were copy and pasted correctly into the form. Definitely don't just move on without making sure. All right. So moving on, we have fulfilled the requirements for the daily data tab. We don't have any more red exclamation points, which is great. So let's move on to the attachment tab. This message shows that attachments are not required for the current submittal, and that makes sense from a daily DMR perspective. We're submitting raw data with the sample value and the sample date, so there's no daily data to attach. However, even though the system may not require an attachment, your permit may require that. So if you recall, we did report one non-compliant value that was higher than the numeric limit. And so we would require a non-compliance reporting form. And so over here on the right-hand side, we offer that form as a link that you can fill out as a PDF, save it to your computer, and then upload it. So there may be other things you want to attach. You may be required to attach your lab reports, for example, but only if you sample. And so even though it says attachments are not required, please consider what your permit requires versus what the system requires. So there's 2 ways to do this. You can click on this bar here, and it opens up a dialog box that allows you to navigate to your attachments. And so let's attach a non-compliance reporting form here. So it provides a row that shows you that you've attached your PDF, but there's still one step that's needed before you can call it done. It says to click on the document to identify the attachment type. So we'll click on this row and it opens up a place for a drop down where you can select that you're attaching a non-compliance reporting form. If you were attaching lab reports, you would just select other. And this list of attachment types that you can, document types is customized to each different general permit. So you may see things here that are required for a particular permit. But in this case, it's the non-compliance reporting form that we're attaching. So now anyone glancing at this attachment, whether you name it non-compliance reporting form or not, it will be tagged as that document type. So if you want to do another attachment, let's show you the different way to do it. Hang on a second. You can do a drag and drop between two windows. So you can just take this Word document, drag it over there, and it adds it as another document. And then we can select this as other. So two ways. You can click on the bar here to add it through the Windows features or just drag and drop. Okay, so we have two attachments there. It says that it reminds us to save, so we should definitely do that. And I'm going to do that. And then we'll go to the review tab. And the review tab basically offers a second way to just make sure that you've included everything that you've meant to. So here it shows that we've met the requirements for the basic info and the daily data. If, for example, we forget something, not only will we see it marked up here, but the review tab will now also have an X showing that we need to go back to basic info and add some information. So let's put that back in. So yeah, we can check these check marks and then it will let you know which attachments you have included. So this is just one last way to make sure you have everything you need. Let's move on to the submission tab. This is a tab that is only fillable by the responsible official. So someone who has the permission to submit this kind of form. And so if someone is a consultant or has a consultant type account, they can get as far as the review tab to fill in the data and make sure everything's good, and then can let the person who's the responsible official know to go into pending submittals and go to the submission tab and submit it. So that's an important note that not everybody has access to submissions. So the submission tab has a certification statement. It's very similar to the one that's at the bottom of the paper DMR. So you would go ahead and click that you've read that certification statement. And then there's a security question and a PIN. So when you register for your DEQ Online, you should make sure to track those security questions and your answers, and also keep your PIN number handy because you'll need that for every submission that you make. So in this case, we will put in the required fields. And now the submit button is active and I can do this. And so now we have a confirmation page here. There's a place where you can print a receipt that has this summary information as well. And there will also be an email that was sent to the responsible official that confirms that the submission was made and what date and time. So there are lots of ways to double check that your submission did go through. All right. Just wanted to show you that now that this is a complete submittal, we can find the DMR that we just completed in the submitted submittals. And here it is, this one that we just submitted. It's submitted by me today for the August reporting period that was due. It's due on September 15th. And if we wanted to take a look at that, we would click on the orange eye. Up here is where we can view our data entry form that we just completed. Looks familiar. And then If you wanted to, if you needed to revise it for any reason, you got feedback from a compliance inspector that there was a data entry error, you accidentally attached the wrong spreadsheet, or whatever the case may be, down here on the bottom in this yellow box, there's a place to click revision. And so this is where you request a revision. And so say you need to change out an attachment, you need to include a reason or else it won't let you send the request. So we just type in a reason and the send request button, it becomes active. We click send request. And it says revise successfully. Please go to pending submittals to view the record. So we will go to pending submittals. And here is the one that we just sent back to ourselves. And so then you can go back and edit it and make changes, change out attachments, whatever you need to do. You need to delete an attachment that you accidentally included or replace it. You can just click remove here. That little trash can is handy and you can find it in a lot of spots on the DMR. So anyway, once you've made your changes to a DMR, then you go through and go back to the submission tab and repeat those steps. All right, I'm going to take a pause here, check my notes, and then we will go to a summary DMR. All right. So we're going to go back to upcoming obligations and move some things here. And here's a 100J DMR. That's again for the August time period. And the 100J uses summary DMRs. So let's take a look at that. All right, so I'm going to hide this so we have more room. The basic information is the same. So let's just knock this out. And let's look at the summary data tab. So it's a little different. There is not a big calendar because we're not selecting individual sample dates, but we do still have the different groups of monitoring on the sidebar here. And it's important to take a look at what each one of those is. So monitoring group E here is industrial facility with monthly average flow less than 50,000 gallons per day. And then F is flow greater than or equal to 50,000 gallons per day. So for 100J industrial facilities, they would need to determine how much monthly average flow they had and whether they need to fill out the one that's less than or greater than. And then there's also the no discharge button here, just as there was on the daily data form, and where you can choose your reason for not having data. And so in this case, we'll say that our industrial facility with monthly average flow less than 50 gallons per day, that form does not apply because we had greater than that flow. So let's look at filling out this form with greater than or equal to 50,000 gallons per day. And note that there's a DMR comment here that we're going to have to pay attention to when we start filling out information for temperature. And there's also a note here that says chlorine monitoring is only required if potable water is used. These are just clues to help us better know how to fill out the form. So let's take a look. As I mentioned before, on a summary DMR, each of these substances is listed in a row in rows. And to open up the data entry form, you click on the row for chlorine, for example. And I have some sample data here, and we're going to enter that we did not use chlorine. And so this monitoring result or monitoring requirement did not apply. And so what we do is we're going to enter one of those no data indicator codes. You can find a list of those codes down here on the sidebar near the bottom. And the one that we're going to enter is *9 right here. That's conditional monitoring not required because the condition was if you use chlorine, then you need to monitor. We did not use chlorine. So it's NODI code *9, and the asterisk is really important because it allows us to distinguish between 9 milligrams per liter and NODI code *9. So if you just put in 9, it would think that you were reporting a sample value. So there are two ways to move to the next parameter. One is to close this and open the next one. Another way is to just scroll down and then go to the right below and click on the next one to open it. So let's enter some more data here. And if you want to expand your screen a little so that you can see everything, you just can hide or expand the sidebar. So how to interpret this? Here's where you need to do your data entry. It's the required field. Your units are defined here, milligrams or million gallons per day, degrees Fahrenheit. Your permit requirement is 25 and it's a maximum. And so what you want to do is put in the maximum flow times temperature that you calculated during the month. So I'm going to put in 20. And as soon as we do that, we see that the required box is no longer required. So let's move through this form a little more. For flow, we have 0.1 million gallons per day. Irrigation flow, 0.1. And then for pH, here we have a weekly monitoring frequency. So we're bound to have up to 4, maybe more monitoring points. So we'll want to put in the minimum pH that we recorded, 1.1, and then the maximum that we recorded, 8.2. And you have to, if you only had one sample, say your frequency of analysis was monthly and the value was 7.1, then you would want to put it in both places so that the system can compare that value to the lower limit and the upper limit. All right. So temperature has a note. It had a note up top that we saw that temperature O equals discharge to an irrigation canal, and temperature P is all other discharges. The reason that's the case is because there's a different temperature limit for discharges to irrigation canals of 150 degrees Fahrenheit. And then the one for P, all other discharges, is for a limit of 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So the user here would need to determine whether they discharge to one or the other or both and make sure that they parse out their temperature values so that they're reporting the irrigation canal discharges in row O, here, row O. And in this case, my data shows that we did not have any discharges to irrigation canals, so that doesn't apply. So I put in no decode 9. And then for all other discharges, my value is 75 degrees. All right, so now we have nothing pink remaining, and you can see that everything is complete. There are no red exclamation points here on the summary data form. But I do want to show you how copy and paste works. So let's go back to Form E, and we'll pretend that this does apply. And here's all this data that we still need to enter. To use the copy and paste feature, we again click to download the CSV template. And we open that up in Excel. And it definitely looks different from the last one. So we will expand this out so that we can see everything. And again, we have the substances listed here along the rows, and it matches up the order on the data entry screen. And then everywhere that there are 5 asterisks, you can ignore. So just leave those as they are. And everything that has a statistic and a unit is something that you need to enter. So this is very similar to what we did on the form, on the screen. But if you prefer working in a spreadsheet format, or if you have a lot of substances, this might be a better way to organize your information. So let's put this information in. We determined that chlorine was not required, so we put in our NODI 9, star 9. For flow times temperature, that was 20. For flow, 0.1. And then irrigation flow was 0.1. Or temperature for O, which is the irrigation canals, did not apply. So we're going to put *9. And then our temperature for all other discharges was 75. And then our pH was 7.1 minimum and 8.2 maximum. So when we do the copy and paste, we only want to copy the data, not the first row and not the first column. So we will copy that and then switch back over to our data entry form. And where it says copy and paste here, we paste that in. It shows you a preview that nothing weird. It looks pretty good. And then we click this import data button, confirm that we want to continue. And now all the pink is white. So hopefully that means that it came in correctly. So let's take a look. The chlorine total residual, we expected that to be no decode 9, and it is. Fluid times temperature is 20, as expected. And then here's flow. Irrigation flow is 0.01. The temperature that did not apply is no decode 9. And then the temperature that does apply is 75 degrees. And then our pH came in as a range of 7.1 to 8.2. So that looks good. And that's how you do the copy and paste feature for the summary data. It's a little different than data or daily data for sure. For the attachment tab, let's open this up again. Because we're submitting summary statistics, the daily data is required to be attached in spreadsheet format. So you don't want to attach a PDF because that won't be allowed. If you don't have a spreadsheet to track your daily data, DEQ has made one. It's probably more complicated than you need. So you could also make your own to track your sample values for each date that you've sampled, and then showing your calculations of summary statistics. But you can use this one here and download it and make it your own. And so we'll go through the process again of adding an attachment. And this time we're going to do a sample spreadsheet here. And so we've uploaded it using that dialog box. Now we have to identify what it is. And so this is going to be our daily data spreadsheet. So we will select this industrial data sheet for e-reporting as the document type. It doesn't have to be called that, and it can be your own. It doesn't have to be ours, but do select the one that is required here if you're, when you're submitting your daily data. Because once you do that, then the requirement to submit your daily data as an attachment has been registered by the system, and you no longer have a red exclamation point up here. All right, so it's asking me to save, and I sure will. And now if we go to the review tab, we've filled out all the basic info in the summary data. We have met the mandatory attachment requirement, and it's here, the test spreadsheet. And then we go to submission, and we follow the same steps that we did before. All right, and then we'll submit. And our submission was successful. Again, we'll find this, a copy of this or the record for this in submitted submittals if we need to go back to it for any reason. And there should be an email waiting for me in my inbox showing me that I've completed the submittal. It's basically a receipt with a time and date stamp. All right. We're getting close to being done with the demonstration here. So let's go back to our presentation. I recognize that what I just walked through is the first time you've seen anything like this and seems pretty daunting. So I encourage you to take a look at your DMRs that are available in your DEQ Online now. They can't be filled out now because they're not until the September reporting period. But you can definitely take a look. If you have any questions about how to fill them out, you can do that. Oh, there's one other piece that I wanted to show you. When we're in a DMR, let's look at next 60 days. We put together some instructions that are specific to the type of DMR you're filling out. So you can click on this Get Information button, and it opens up a document that I have saved here. And it's basically walks you through the different tabs and what you need to fill out. And then it defines the different groups of monitoring. It recommends different NOTI codes for different situations. Let's scroll down a little bit, and it walks you through all the different parameters that you need to fill out and basically how you do that, how you interpret your results. It also has information on the attachment tab, the review tab, things that might be required or optional, and then submission. So, and revisions. So basically everything that I just walked you through is accessible in that Get Information button here. And that's pretty bare bones, but it has all the details for each DMR type. But then we also have user's guide and program resources. So again, if you Google Your DEQ Online, you can click on the how to use your DEQ Online and go straight to information specific to what you're working on. And speaking of that, we have a DMR guidance that is almost complete. We're just adding some final touches and getting it reviewed. It walks through everything that we just talked about in great detail. It includes screenshots and lists of NOTI codes and when to use them, all kinds of stuff, how to calculate summary statistics if that's on your list of things to do. And then these webinars will be recorded. We'll also have video demonstrations. And then always you can send questions to the help desk. So coming up next, we'll have another webinar just like this one on September 25th as that due date approaches. And then if you get into your DMRs when you're filling them out in October, we have a couple office hours drop-in sessions where you can come with questions, and maybe there will be other people there with questions similar to yours. So we'll do that for 2 sessions. And then your first DMR is due on October 15th in Your DEQ Online. And then, as I mentioned before, anytime between now and forever, the help desk will be available. So we can get through your first DMR, and then if you have questions going forward, or if you have a new staff person that needs some help, you can email Your DEQ Online at deq.oregon.gov. And if you put DMR in the subject line, that'll get directly to me and my team. All right, surely there are questions.
Yeah, and I'll also add as well that if you are on that Your DEQ Online website, there's also just a link there to reach our help desk where you can just fill out a form and it'll submit straight to them too. So 2 ways to get to them. If you don't remember the email, you can always just Google our web page and find the link to get to the help desk form. And we actually don't have any questions in the Q&A, but I would love to spend some time here to answer anything that has popped up for anybody as you've watched Martina's wonderful presentation. So we can unmute if anybody wants to get on their microphone. I'm happy to unmute you, or feel free to type them in. I'll give everybody just a minute here to think about what you might want to ask, and please, anything at all, we're happy to answer. And if you do have a question you want to and you want to be unmuted, just raise your hand and I will unmute you. I'm not seeing anything. Martina, you did such a wonderful job explaining everything. Melissa, did you have anything you wanted to add? Yeah. All right, folks. Since we don't have any questions coming in, you are free to go. We will hang back though if you do have a question you want to ask us, or again, you're welcome to just reach out to our help desk and we can answer your questions that way as well. Thanks everyone for attending, and we'll see you at the next live session.
Thank you.